Well, welcome everybody to another edition of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck, and of course that means some smart talk radio is in your future. In this segment, one I've been looking forward to for quite a while. We're going to be talking to a person that normally is on the other side of this industry. She is a publicist, and she's quite accomplished indeed. She's Vice President, Senior Director of Publicity and Acquiring Editor at DeCapo Press, and author of The Savvy Author's Guide to Book Publicity. She also holds a BS in English Education from Miami University and a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing from Bennington College. She also teaches at Boston's Emerson College, lives in southern New Hampshire. My gosh, Leza Warren. Is it Leza? It's what?
Lissa.
Lissa Warren. It is spelled, here's the deal. It is spelled Lissa. So you would think it could be Lissa or Lisa. So I probably have pronounced her name wrong all morning. It is
That's
Lissa Warren.
Okay.
Anyway, she truth be told, we have worked together for quite a while, never done an interview, but she is responsible for providing publicity and working very hard to set up exposure and interviews for lots of the guests that you have heard on this show in the past. We are very happy to have her here. A really interesting new work called The Good Luck Cat, How a Cat Saved a Family and a Family Saved a Cat. Wow. Welcome to our show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to join you.
Lissa, let's talk about this. Before we dive into The Good Luck Cat, let's just talk about the world of book publishing. And I'm very curious. You have seen a lot. I'm curious now, is the world of publishing, particularly books, different now than it was when you got into the industry? And if so, how?
It is different. It's still quite healthy, but of course we are always looking over our shoulder at, even just things like Facebook and Twitter that take a lot of people's time these days, and that are, other ways for them to engage with words and read things. And so we are conscious that it's an ever-changing landscape, but book sales are still very strong. There are still a ton of voracious readers out there. I've certainly seen a big change ever since ebooks came into view, and that is a whole different way of doing things, a different reading experience. But there are people who adore it. They swear by it. They would not want to read a printed book any longer. And I suppose if you think about it, it's a lot better for the environment not to be killing trees and carting books across country. So I'm pro ebook, even though I don't have one myself and don't choose to read books that way myself. But that's one of the big sea changes in the industry in the past 20 years, which is how long I've been in the business.
Lissa, what about kind of maybe do a parallel here with the music business? With the virtual nature of the new world of publishing in many respects, do you spend more time concerned about proprietary issues and, so to speak, theft of intellectual property and the sort of the underground nature sometimes and how some of this material can get distributed and people in essence get it without paying for it?
We honestly don't worry about it too terribly much. There is a woman in our office who is sort of our czar when it comes to these things, and every once in a while she'll see a book of ours put on a website for illegal download, and she will send them a cease and desist letter, and usually that scares them enough that they take it right down. Very rarely do we have to go a step further. So it is something that we, police a bit, and that our authors certainly police. We do get emails from them every once in a while saying, did you guys tell this website they could offer my book for free? Because there it is. And we do swing into action when it happens, but it doesn't happen terribly often, and it's something that can be remedied in most cases.
Lissa, also, I have to ask you this. You have at least two works to your credit. I'm curious, what came first, the desire to write or to be in publishing, and then once in publishing, wow, I can do this, and I want to do this now. I want to write a book.
Mm-hmm. I always wanted to be a writer. I mean, I think as a child growing up, that was my first love. But then I had the good sense and the good parents to say, you do want to be able to keep the lights on, right? To put food on the table and have a roof over your head. Being an author is not a terribly lucrative thing for most authors. Sure, there are the James Pattersons of the world, but he's one in a million. So it's not really conducive to an easy lifestyle to be an author alone, and so I gravitated toward publishing because that was a way to surround myself with books and other people who work on them and love them. And so after entering the publishing industry, after a few years, I thought, I do want to go back to that original desire that I had to write, but I love the publishing business too, and I love the life that business gives me, and so I wanted to find a way to incorporate both into my life, and luckily have a boss here at the Capo Press who encouraged me and was behind me to do some of my own writing too.
What do you tell, because you undoubtedly get asked this a lot, whether it's by your students or others, what do you tell young writers in terms of if you want to be published or if you want to even be noticed in all the authorship noise that's out there, what do you do to break through? Is there either a philosophy of writing or an approach or just, and again, in simplistic terms, what makes the good one stand out to you?
Well, I think a good writer is a writer who is a good reader and does a lot of reading, has done a lot of reading, challenges themselves with the kind of books that they read, reads broadly, reads things that, wouldn't be something that they would naturally even read, and reads purposefully. So if you feel as a writer you are not good at fleshing out your characters, you're not good at character development, read authors who are really good at that. Or if you think that your plots lag a little bit here and there, read an author who really has amazing plots with all kinds of twists and turns. So good readers make good writers, and a lot of times when we get proposals for books, they're fine ideas, but the prose just doesn't grab us. So craft is important, and I encourage authors to spend a lot of years really honing their craft. There's no easy way. You have to just practice, and read.
Well, if you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis, from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. We're talking to Lissa Warren. She's the Vice President, Senior Director of Publicity and Acquiring Editor at the Capo Press. She's also the author of the Savvy Author's Guide to Book Publicity, holds a B.S. in English Education from Miami University, a Master's in Fine Arts and Creative Writing from Bennington College. She also teaches in the Writing Lecture and Publishing program at Boston's Emerson College. And on top of that, has a brand new workout called The Good Luck Cat, How a Cat Saved a Family and a Family Saved a Cat. And let's talk about that right now. When we talk about pets, Lissa, you're talking about things that, boy, pull on a heartstrings immediately. Tell us a little bit about before we dive specifically into the book, tell us about your relationship overall with your pets in the past.
Sure. I first had a Cairn Terrier when I was a little girl. Her name was Oregano, and she was just the light of my life. I adored that dog. And then when I was 7 years old, my parents adopted a cat, a Burmese, named Cinnamon, and she slept in my arms every night until she passed away at the age of 19. And then enter my third pet, my second cat. Her name is Ting Pei, so Ting Pei Warren, and she is a Karat, which is a breed from Thailand. She's a purebred cat. She's actually third-generation Thai. Her great-grandfather was from Thailand, and they are a beautiful silver gray. She has these luminous green eyes, and she's just a little 7-pound cat, but I just adore her, and my whole family adores her.
Well, let's talk now specifically. The Good Luck Cat, a decidedly personal story for you. Give us a little bit of the setup and tell us the motivation, again, obviously, for the book.
Sure. When my father retired, he had to retire because he had a quadruple bypass where only one of the 4 grafts took. So he wasn't a well man, and he was home alone because my mother was still working and I was working by then. I was out of college, moved back in with them when I graduated from college because I liked them, not because I had to, but because I actually chose to. And so with my mom and I gone most of the days, he needed a companion, and so enter Ting Pei, the lovely little companion animal who kept my father happy, and even when he became depressed because of his illness, she was always the one thing that could get him up out of bed and get him to go downstairs and feed her, and she really changed his life and made his final years a whole lot better. So I wanted to write a book in tribute to this amazing cat, but also in tribute to my amazing father, who I lost to a heart attack when he was 72. And this book chronicles our journey with Ting, and the journey with Ting became more complicated when she had some of her own health issues.
What about your relationship with your father? Were you his only daughter?
Yeah, only child and only daughter. And, we were very close, and he was the person who really turned me on to a love of words. He would be able to do the New York Times crossword puzzle so quickly and not miss a single letter, much less a word. He loved to read books. He loved baseball. He loved football. He loved all the guy stuff, too, but he loved that little cat, and he loved to read. And those are all things that are interests of mine now. We were very close.
Would there ever have been a chance or a situation where instead of a cat it would have been a dog? Or is this absolutely, there was no question it was going to be a cat?
It's funny. People ask me, do you think cat people and dog people are the same or different? And everybody expects me to say, very different, very different. But I actually think that cat and dog people are very similar. It's not easy to take care of an animal, to feed it, to help it when it has medical problems, to, brush it and bathe it and do all that kind of stuff that you have to do to take care of them, to rush home to let the dog out, or to rush home because the cat is going to be lonesome and miserable until you get there. So I think that dog people and cat people are more alike than they are different.
Tell us about, during your father's illness, tell us about the dynamics. And again, it's probably pretty obvious, but share with us, what did the cat bring to the table and your father's relationship with the cat?
Sure. She was a comfort to him. He would put her little kitty bed on top of his dresser that was across the room from his bed because she loved to hop up on high places, and he knew that if she hopped up there, he'd be able to see her while he was lying in bed. His world revolved around this cat. He would go where she went in the house, and that would get him up and moving, which was so essential to him maintaining what little bit of health he had left. He doted on her, and she doted on him. Her favorite thing was to crawl up and sit right down on his chest, and she would stay there for hours, and he'd wrap his robe around her and just kind of cuddle her. And there have actually been a lot of studies done that say that kind of physical contact with a cat can be a healthy thing for a person. It can actually improve their health. It can lower their blood pressure, which is something that for a man with a heart problem is a very good, important thing. So that's what she was to him, and because she did all these wonderful things for him, that's what she was to my mom and I, too. She was someone that made my father happy, and that was all we could ask for.
So ironically, the non-human was really, in essence, in many ways, the center and sort of a glue for the entire family.
Yeah, absolutely. We couldn't fight. We couldn't disagree if there was the cat to take care of. The cat always came first, and she was, and for my mom and I still is, a unifying force.
Well, I was going to say I wanted to proceed on also, and let's talk a little bit about the cat. Let's continue on with your father here a little bit. Talk more about the progression of his illnesses and his challenges, and then we'll keep going from there.
Sure. My dad developed a condition called myeloproliferative disease, which some people refer to as pre-leukemia. So on top of the heart problem that he had this blood disorder that, is a very, very serious thing. And so he was starting to show signs of, more heart problems, we thought. But we weren't sure if it was the myeloproliferative disease or the heart problem. But he was having numbness in his left arm. He was, not having a tightness in his chest per se, but just really not feeling right. And so we took him for test after test after test, and really were thinking that it was the myeloproliferative disease that was causing the symptoms that he was having, but learned too late that it was a heart attack that he was headed toward, and that heart attack was fatal. And, we did lose my dad, and I still remember so clearly coming home from the hospital with my mom and seeing Ting, the cat, come to the top of the stairs like she always did to greet him. and then looking and seeing that he wasn't there with us and turning around and walking upstairs. And that will always be imprinted in my memory. And then, years went by. We all struggled to deal with our grief, but then we had another medical emergency in the family. Ting became sick. She started having fainting spells, and we took her to our vet. Our vet recommended she go to a cat cardiologist, and the cat cardiologist told us that she has a condition called second-degree AV block, and that was what was causing her fainting spells, and that the only thing that we could do for her was to get her a pacemaker. But they don't make pacemakers for cats. So we set about getting a human pacemaker for our cat, and we found a wonderful cardiologist in Boston who was able to implant it. And now, 5 or 6 years later, that cat is still doing very, very well, and that little pacemaker is still ticking away.
Wow.
I know. Crazy, huh?
Okay. Let's talk about Lissa. Why do I keep messing your name up? Your name, it's so simple. It's Lissa, okay? It's
That's
simple.
okay.
It's Lissa. Very, very simple. All right, let's talk about you. Let's talk about you and your situation specifically.
Sure.
Let's talk about that.
Well, I woke up one morning and my left leg was numb, and I didn't really think much of it. I thought, well, gosh, maybe I slept funny or pinched a nerve or something. Next day, my left arm was numb. Next day, the right side of my face and my tongue were numb. And so after much urging by my mother, who said, you really need to go to a doctor and figure out what's going on, I went to a walk-in clinic, and they turfed me to the local emergency room, and less than 24 hours later, I had my own diagnosis, my own serious diagnosis. I was told that I have multiple sclerosis and that there were 10 lesions on my brain, and that 2 of them were very, very big, tumefactive, they called them. So MS for me has always meant manuscript because I work in publishing, and that's the abbreviation we use for manuscripts when the authors turn them in. But now, forever, it will be an incurable, progressive disease that I have, but that doesn't have me, that I have learned to live with and live happily with and well with, and have learned to manage very effectively. And I'm doing great now. My last MRI showed no new lesions on my brain or my spine. So when you're hit with something like that, you don't know what the future holds for you. It is a very scary thing, but I had Ting through that whole diagnosis to keep me company, and I still have her. She's still alive to elevate my mood when I am down about my MS. And I see now what she offered to my father in terms of comfort, and it's a real gift because she offers comfort to me, and that helps me to understand my father better. So even after I lost him, I still came to know him better by understanding how much that cat meant to him.
What has living with MS, as you look around? I know you're perceptive. You're surrounded by information and input. What have you learned, and what has been maybe the biggest surprise for you? Maybe to the upside, and then is there a challenge maybe that you could never have been prepared for?
Sure. I think the upside is that it's a great time to have MS, and I know how crazy that sounds, but 10, 20, 30 years ago, there really weren't medications that could effectively handle this disease, that could make it so that you get fewer lesions and so that they're smaller. And, they do have so many different medications now, and you try a few of them and you see which one works best for you. So I'm encouraged by all the advances they're making in medications, and I also believe in my lifetime they will find a cure for this disease. They will figure out what causes it, and they will find a cure. And there's so much research that's being done worldwide into everything from probiotics and gut flora to toxins in the environment that may have triggered a gene that people are susceptible to the disease if they have a certain genetic mutation. So there's so much research going on, and I'm so encouraged by that. So that has been a learning experience for me, and that is something that I'm encouraged about. On the downside, it's honestly the littlest things that make you aware that you have the disease that you don't even think about perhaps until it's too late. Like just this morning, I put on a pair of heels and trotted off to work and, realized as I was walking from the parking garage to our office building that I'm really not too good in these heels anymore. That I should try a different pair of heels that's a little bit lower, or
Right.
maybe wear some flats. And so that means I need to get my pants hemmed. And, it's a little thing, but little changes that you have to make. When I buy a home someday, I will probably not buy one with stairs because I want to be practical about this. And I know that, 5-10 years from now, I may not be able to get up those stairs so easily or get up them at all, depending on the course that the disease takes. So, there are those little downsides, those little reminders every time you stand up and walk that you have a brain disease. But I've still got my wits about me. It affects your brain, but it doesn't affect your mind. It doesn't affect your intellect. And I'm so, so thankful of that.
Yeah, again, we're with Lissa Warren. Lissa is a publicist for the publishing house there. She also teaches, and she is the author of at least 2 books. We're talking about The Good Luck Cat, How a Cat Saved a Family, and the Family Saved a Cat. Curious, Lissa, again, you're perceptive. Are you treated differently by those that are close to you? Can you tell?
That's a great question. My mom treats me differently, and my boyfriend treats me differently. With the same respect they both always did, but with a little extra care, for which I'm grateful.
Yeah.
A few little burdens that they try to take off me. It's little things like my mom bringing me a cup of tea in the morning so that I don't have to struggle to open the tea bag and, deal with the microwave, which is just a little high up, so I have to stand on my toes just a little bit to put the teacup in it, and I topple over just a tiny bit when I try. So there's little gentle ways that they treat me different. I do see that. But folks at work who I disclosed my disease to, from the get-go, really, like the week that I found out about it, because I didn't want to live a life of trying to cover it up, I think they've forgotten that I have it. I mean, they really just don't see it. I'm not using a cane yet. I'm not using a walker or anything like that. And every once in a while, when I go on a business trip with them, and I'm lagging behind and struggling to wheel my suitcase along, and up the stairs at Penn Station, they might look behind themselves and say, "Oh gosh, she isn't keeping up." And maybe then they remember that I have it. But I don't think most of them think differently of me, and most of my authors really don't know that I have it. And I don't think that there's any change in the way that I work or my abilities that would tip anybody off to it. So, I am honest about it with people, and I'm comfortable talking with people about it. And I just don't want to try to hide it, because that would add a whole nother level of concern and worry and work. And I don't need that. And people have been very supportive. The women who I work with, they've said to me, "Let us know anything that you need here at work for us to help you with. And, anything in your personal life, if you need us to help you with, if you have a doctor's appointment and you need a ride, just let us know and we'll give you one." It really has brought out the best in people, not the worst in people. I've never had anybody say anything that wasn't supportive or anything that made me feel like a sick person or feel lesser than. And I'm thankful for that too.
There's a passage in the epilogue I wanted to read real quickly and get your comment on it. It says, "The thing no one tells you about grief is that it's permanent. I've heard people talk about picking up the pieces after someone you love dies, but I see no evidence that it's possible. You learn to step over the pieces, I suppose, but the pieces are always there." Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think that when you lose someone who you really, truly loved, you don't ever get over that. And the expression, "time heals all wounds," I think it's bull. I don't think that time heals all wounds, but you learn to go on. You just keep putting one foot forward in front of the other. And, I will always miss my dad, just like I always will miss my grandparents. Like I'll always miss Oregano, that little Cairn Terrier I had. Like I'll always miss Cinnamon, that Burmese I had. Like someday I'll miss Ting, the cat that I have now. But loss is part of life, and I think that when you love someone so much that they fundamentally change who you are, you will miss them forever. And I think it's a good thing to miss them, because I think it means you really loved them.
Indeed. Boy, what an extraordinary work here, extraordinary story. The Good Luck Cat, Lissa Warren. She is a publicist by trade, for Da Capo, but she is an author with us. Good Luck Cat, How a Cat Saved a Family and a Family Saved a Cat, an extraordinary, multiple-pronged story with lots of different levels to it. And we thank her so much for being here. And needless to say, how do we get a copy of the book, and how do we also find out more a little bit about some of the other work you do?
You can get a copy at your local independent bookstore. I encourage people to shop indie whenever they can. You can also get it at B&N, Barnes & Noble, and you can get it on Amazon.com. And please follow me on Twitter. It's at Lissa_Warren. And I post lots of things there about books and publishing and cats.
Sounds great. Hey, listen, thank you so much for spending time with us, and I hope to have you on again in the future, and I know we'll be working together, and I appreciate everything that you do.
I'll always be happy to join you. Take care, Warner.
You bet. We'll be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.